Hey everyone, Julian here, and today you have just entered my definitive deep minimal house drum tutorial. What this is going to be is I have this loop in front of me here, as you can see, and I'm going to just be giving you guys every single tip I picked up on making these style of tracks to really make powerful and good drums for this style. You know, I think there's a few little tips and techniques that can really help if you figure them out. So today I'm going to be showing you guys everything using this loop that I have in front of me as a guide. And to go along with this video, I've actually just dropped a new sample pack that you can use in conjunction with this video to make your own track. What this is this pack is called Definitive Deep Minimal House Drum Loops Volume 1. And what it is, it's a collection of 10 loops of drums in the style. As you can see, they're all BPM labeled and split into individual layers. So you can go through and work with them as the individual layers or just as the full loop. And I'll play you some of these here. So as you can see, they're all solid loops that, like I said, you get the full construction of everything. So you can work with each individual layer. You can take the tips I'm going to give you in this video and use these sounds as a quick jumping off point for that. And also, you get 5 free bonus bass lines, which as you can see, with each of those you get the key labeled, BPM labeled, and you get the MIDI file and wave file. So you really get almost everything you need to make a really great deep minimal house track in this pack. The link is right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. This really supports me if you guys have been enjoying these videos and learning things. And yeah, let's get into the tutorial. So the first tip I want to give you guys about making these style of drums, I'll play you this loop. This is the project file for pack 8 from the pack. But the first tip here is like the style of sounds that you want to go for. And the style of sounds that you want to go for here are more sort of like short and tight percussion. You know, you don't want something to be too thin, but it needs to be sort of short and tight while still having a lot of body to it. So a really great example of this would be like the open hi-hats. Like we've all heard this style of open hi-hat in this type of track before. You know, where it's just like this super short, like, you know, it's not a big long, like, let's play like I'll just play you like Ableton's 909 hi-hat. Like, you know, it's kind of a similar sound to this, but you don't want all that like that. So the way you could go and make that work for the style would be to do something like this, you know? Like you get the hi-hat, and then you shorten it like this. And now you still have that open hi-hat sound, but as you can see, it's a lot tighter and shorter. And this is just going to work really well because the groove for these style of tracks, it's two things. It's the very swingy feel, but it's also the tight sounds with that swingy feel. You know, it's almost very similar to like a UK garage type of groove where, again, like it's these tight little type of hi-hats and very quick, short percussion like you can hear here. And it's all that stuff happening at once, and all the, like, how you can hear each individual sound that's going to make the groove. So, like I said, you want to aim for short and tight sounds, but not thin sounds. You know, they're still fat. Like, this hi-hat is still really fat. This clap is, like, one of these kind of shorter, tighter claps. But again, like, you know, it's not thin. It's still very fat and very full. And you can really hear this with the percussions. You know, the percussions are all in the same vein as well. And then when it comes to the kick, you can hear the kick actually is going to be a little bit more boomy. You're going to want more of like a 909 style kick. And it's going to be a bit boomy, but the main key that's going to sort of tie it together is just the way that it's like, still got that really big attack. Like if you look at this sound, over here, all this like, basically as this sine wave starts to kind of get slower and you can see it spread out there, that is sort of like just the extra fluff on the sound. But if you look at this starting point here, this is like really where all the fatness is happening. So yeah, with the kick, it's still going to kind of feel a bit like shorter and tighter when you hear it in the mix. But you can hear how much bass like you really actually want to have in there. So that's the first thing, is just making sure that you get the right style of sounds and that you know how to make them. Like I said, like the technique of taking the open hi-hat and shortening it like I did with that 909 here can be done with a lot of other things. So after you get the style of sounds down, the next tip here that I've really picked up on here is just how many layers there are going to be. If you look at this, besides like the clap, like I would say like our sort of main percussion layers would really just be this. You know, this is the foundation that you're hearing. And those are the main drums. Even when we have all this stuff happening, those are still the things that are coming through the strongest. However, all these other background layers, like the zap, these different percussions, you know, both of these, like the shaker and the hi-hat happening there. You know, like if you listen to these kind of on their own, you start to see like how much stuff really goes into it. You know, this whole time, even while you're hearing all that stuff, even just like hearing the little interplay between this percussion and the zap here. Like all that kind of stuff that's happening. You know, keep in mind, like, you're hearing that, plus you're hearing this groove. Plus you're hearing this groove. You know, it's like all these different things that are happening that are gonna like really make it up. And the thing is that most of these are really in the background. You know, most of these are things that the average person that just listens to your track isn't gonna be able to pick up on it. And that's the key. It's about making elements that maybe they're not hearing so consciously, like they're not hearing it and saying, oh, there's 4 layers of percussion in the background, 1 is a bongo, 1 is a zap sound. You know, they're not necessarily doing that, but instead they're just hearing it and they're able to feel it because their brain is still taking it in, even if they're not like noticing it so consciously. It's a very subconscious sort of thing, but you can tell when it's missing, because like, let's say we just do like the clap and 1 percussion, and I'll get rid of the shaker, and we'll have the zap. So it's like, this would still be like, you know, a pretty good amount of elements, and the groove is still there. But it's still just not as good as this. So that's really the thing there. Again, like, most of these layers are gonna be in the background, and you just have to like make sure that you have enough stuff. So the way I recommend learning how to do that is just really listen to reference tracks. You know, really study what's going on. This is how I figured it out, is essentially, you know, just get these tracks by these DJs that you like in the style and really use your ear and really listen. Like, pay attention to like each quarter note in the groove and like really figure out what's happening in there, because again, like, most of the layers are going to be in the background, but if you don't have the right amount of them, it's just not going to work. Again, this just doesn't sound as good as this does. And even if we take out like 1 or 2 of these, it's still not nearly as solid. So yeah, and then also with that thing, or with that idea, the next tip here is that you want to, like, when you're actually making your drums and when you're building up your track in general in the style, you want to start with the main elements and then sort of move back, if that makes any sense. Because I'm sure, like, the first thing that comes to your mind is like, okay, so if you're going to do all these percussion layers, where do you start? You know, like, how do you go from nothing and just say like, oh, okay, I'm going to bring in like this zap and this background percussion, and then this is going to turn into a groove somehow. And really the secret is that you have to just start with the main elements and sort of move your way back. So, like, where I always start is I always start with a kick. Like, no matter what, first thing you do, get the kick. Which is not hard because, you know, you just find a really fat, nice kick sample that you like, put it in with quarter notes, and you're ready to move forward. And then the next thing I would usually do would be like the open hi-hat, so then we add that in. Again, still really straightforward. Then we can add like the clap. So now we have something that's not hard to make because these are always pretty much going to be on the same hits every time in the beat. But now we have something to work from. You know, now you might hear like, oh, okay, so let's throw in the zap here. And then maybe you could add in like a closed hi-hat. And like, I think if you start with the main things and just start, like I said, keep moving your way back until you're at like the really background elements that are just in there for feel and nothing else. That's really the best way to go because yeah, like, you know, if you're trying to just start with like I said, like the background percussion and then work your way up from there, you know, you're going to have a hard time. But if you stick to the formula of main elements first, you know, start with the kick, then the hi-hat and clap, then maybe like some background hi-hats that you're still like are pretty much up front, some of the percussion. This is just going to work a lot better, I think, overall. And yeah, the process is just going to go a lot smoother. You know, it's not hard, but it is hard if you're constantly trying to like forage through all these different layers, so to speak. And yeah, and then the last tip that I picked up on that's really, really useful for making these tracks is essentially you want to think of the percussion and the groove as the lead. Like if you're making like, you know, say a cosmic techno track or something like that, you're going to have a lead in there where it's going to be like a synth lead, or maybe it's like a 303 or something like that. And that's usually going to be like your main sort of big element, like that and the kick. Here, in this style of a track, you might have a synth lead, or you might have like, you know, usually it would be like some synth chord stabs or something like that. But those really aren't like the lead. The percussion is really the main thing in the mix. And just like that groove. Especially like the way it's working with the bass line. Like we bring in a bass. You know, this is really the lead, is the groove here. And then your like melodic stuff in a track like this is gonna really be more just sort of like, you know, helping to complement this. So if you approach it from that perspective of the idea that the percussion is the lead, it's going to make a lot more sense, like right off the bat. You know, it's one of those things where it just may not always make sense exactly like how it's all got to work. But if you think about it that way, you can kind of be easier to wrap your head around it. And yeah, so that is all the tips that I've got, and that is everything that I think you really need to make good, solid drums in this style. You know, it's not really that hard. It's just a few little things to wrap your head around. And yeah, so that was me for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the definitive Deep Minimal House Drum Loops Volume 1 sample pack right at the top of the description. You get these 10 awesome drum loops as well as the bonus bass lines in wave and MIDI format. So you can really just take these and go through and use all the different layers and make your own drum loops. Or just have some really solid inspiration to work with for your own new tracks. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. This really supports me as well. You know, if you guys have been enjoying these videos, these sample packs are a great way to support me and keep me going, so I can keep making you guys new videos every single day. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for all the support, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.